Asking the right questions can be terribly important in most circumstances, especially in the dry, pitiless world of international politics, littered with bleached bones of angled skylights and twisting branches. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and live and let live has been the long standing policy of India in the vein and in the veins of every Indian. India as a country has persisted for over 5 decades to make peace with its neighbors. But due to their hostile, arrogant, devious, and hegemonic attitude, it has created mere bloodshed wars and fights and vexatious socio-economic culture. Hubristic PRC has been, from its inception, playing pity punt to create trouble to India, which has negatively affected its own image as a country in terms of integrity. Barbarous Pakistan, on the other hand, has been defying its basis of existence and all the peace treaties to do unjust to India and its own citizens. Hostility concerning violence, terrorism, economics, culture, and territory are the prima facie of all the acts of omission, such as Pakistan occupying the parts of Kashmir, China capturing the parts of Ladakh and as we call it, the Aksai Chin or the China occupied Kashmir, which are related to the hostilities of territory. Pakistan has been funding extremist groups and terror organizations which have sheer motive of ethnic cleansing in India. Now Nepal, on the directives of China, has been trying to bully India to give away its own territory, and thus on and on goes on the hostilities. Economically, Pakistan is a near dead land, and it won't be surprising if even China one day buys out the whole country. But my larger point is China has found new ways to sabotage others' economics. It gives away death loans. Basically, I'm explaining the debt trap, and charges collateral as the country's national assets, key strategic ports, and other strategically important assets of the country. In short, Beijing lures developing or underdeveloped countries to borrow money for infrastructure projects and later controls them if they fail to pay off their loans in time. On the contrary, Pakistan, with its detrimental economy, has been rescued from near bankruptcy by China for repayment of over $1 trillion in debt. Pakistan is in an unstable condition due to its own inimical attitude and issues with mainly India in fighting an endless border war and defacing India's security. Rather than improving relations with India and thus with other countries, it only focused for decades on meddling and unnecessarily raising geopolitical tensions with India. India is the world's biggest democracy and has always defamed bigotry and allowed extremist groups, mainly which are funded by debt-ridden Pakistan, to make pro-religion remarks. Pakistan has always took advantage of it to create a divide. Sometimes it worked, and when at war, it had to face serious music, that is defeat. Is nothing but shutting down such groups and making a bold statement. In depth, there's a pattern of performance of such groups. They try to sway public to antitrust and anti-ethnic sentiments. Then they activate code of conduct to transform their groups to a more vandalism approach towards those who don't believe in their ethnic codes. Later, they try to create a torturous movement for those who deny to follow. And then at last, riotous environment is taking form of storm. Problem number 2. Heavy dependence on China. World as a collective group of countries are heavily dependent on cheap producers of China. It only results in consumption of disastrous quality materials. So specifically India for the supply of a wide range of products, from the simplest of products like nails, tags and umbrellas to sophisticated electronic products and pharmaceutical intermediates. We are dependent on China, which nears to around $82.2 billion or approx rupees 6.16 lakh crores in imports from China and Hong Kong, which act as a gateway for Chinese products. In sector-wise dependence, first is the APIs, or active pharmaceutical ingredients. Secondly, motorcycle industry, which has been importing nearly 85% of its components from China in 2018 and 19, mainly critical parts like wheel rims. Thirdly, yet another disconcerting trend is that India is heavily dependent on China for solar photovoltaic cells. More than 90% of imports of silicon wafers and silicon lanterns in 2019-20 were from China. The fourth sector is textiles, in which synthetic and artificial woven yarn imports from China have risen. Two conclusions can be drawn from the economic problem and economic tensions with China. The first is that China is in a significantly superior position in the international division of labor vis-a-vis India. The relative economic performances of the two economies stand testimony to this fact. Second, from India's perspective, dependence on a single country for critical products in such a large measure can never be an appropriate strategy, especially when it has a huge demand for these products. This situation needs to change, but this can happen only through the adoption of policies that can help change to a new normal. For doing so, India's policymakers must reflect on what they should have done but did not do during the past 15 years. The fallout of this neglect is now causing much consternation within the country. If the lessons are not learned, then, as the adage goes, the country would be left to repeat the same mistakes. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.